A 401k plan is typically the first place people start saving for retirement. But what do you do once you've already maxed out your 401k plan? Well, in today's video, I'm going to share with you other options so that you can make sure you're making the most of your financial situation. Hey everybody, I'm James Knoll, founder of Roth Financial, and I'm here to teach you how to get the most out of life with your money. So what should you do once you've already maxed out a 401k? Well, there's countless options, there's tons of options, but first, before exploring any of those, understand how much do you even need to be saving for retirement. The decision of where you should save next should be made within the context of a well-constructed financial plan that helps you to understand how much should be allocated to retirement and how much should be allocated elsewhere. So there's not a universal answer to this or a universal best answer to this, and let's explore why. Let's look at an example of 3 people, all of whom want to retire at the age of 65, all of whom are age 55 today, and all of whom who are already maxing out a 401k. Let's assume for simplicity, all 3 of these individuals, they've done their financial plan and they know that they need $1 million by the time that they're 65 to successfully retire. Well, how much should they save for retirement? Well, we don't have enough information yet to understand what individual 1, 2, and 3 need to save to be on track for their goals. What's the missing link? The missing link or the missing variable is how much they already have saved. Let's assume person number 1, who's maxing a 401k, age 55, wants to retire at 65 with $1 million. Let's assume this individual has $800,000 already saved for retirement. Well, if we assume a 6% growth rate on their investments between 55 and 65, and if they're maxing their 401k at $30,000 per year, then this individual would have $1.83 million by the time that they're 65. So if I looked at that individual and they came to me and said, hey James, where should I save once I've maxed my 401k? My first question would be, do you even need to keep saving? Do you even need to max out your 401k? Sure, maybe save enough to get the match, but you're already on pace to overfund your goals. And if your goal is not to retire early or spend more on retirement, my feedback might be, what else could you do with that money instead of saving to your 401k in the first place? Let's assume the second person who also wants to retire at 65 with $1 million, who also is 55 years old, but they have $350,000 in their portfolio. Well, if this individual is maxing their 401k and also gets a 6% rate of return, well, they're right on track to have about $1 million at age 65. So could they save more? Yeah, they could save more. And by the way, saving more, it's never a bad thing. It's more cushion, it's more margin for error, it's more income that they could live on, it's more flexibility. So it's not a bad thing, and I never want to give the impression that it is, unless it's costing your ability to do things today. Unless it's taking away from resources that could otherwise be doing things that are also meaningful to you and also important. But individual number 2, who's starting with $350,000, on track to get to $1 million, if they said, should I save more? I could say you could, and you give yourself a little bit of buffer, but you're already on track to be where you need to be without saving more. Then the final individual, let's assume this individual has nothing saved, and they're 55, want to retire at 65 with $1 million. Well, if they max out a 401k, and if that money grows at 6% per year, they're only going to have $395,000 by the time that they turn 65. So this individual, if they came to me and said, hey, where should I save more money for retirement? There would be lots of options and lots of suggestions for how to do that because they're not on track yet. So I say this because so often people, they max out their 401k and they come to me and say, okay, what's next? What's my next goal? What's the next bucket I need to fill up? I say, hold on, let's take a step back real quick and first understand how much do you need to save. If you don't need to save more, then we could consider it, but let's also consider other options. But if you do need to save more, that's when we should jump in and start understanding what those options are. So now let's explore, once you've already maxed out a 401k, what should you think about saving to next? Well, for starters, an HSA, so a health savings account, this is a great place to start. To me, an HSA is one of the most valuable things that you can have for retirement, but you can only have it if you have a high deductible health plan. So if you're not covered by a high deductible health plan, you can't make HSA contributions, but if you can, the beauty of this account is you get a tax deduction for putting money in, the money grows tax-free, and then it's tax-free on the way out if you're using it for qualified medical expenses. Now, if you don't use it for qualified medical expenses and you're over 65, then you can still pull the money out and use it for anything else you want to spend money on. It just doesn't come out tax-free. It's kind of the same tax treatment as a 401k or a traditional IRA. Tax deduction in, tax deferred growth, and then taxable on the way out. However, there's going to be enough medical expenses for most people to fully use their HSA balance on. So if you've maxed out your 401k, this is another great place to save to reduce your taxes today have money grow tax-free, and then have a tax-free bucket of money in retirement to pay for healthcare expenses, which for most people is one of their biggest concerns in retirement. For 2023, $3,850 is the most that you can put into an HSA for an individual. For a family or for a couple, $7,750 is the max. And if you're 55 or older, there's an additional $1,000 catch-up contribution you can make to an HSA. So the contribution limits aren't huge, at least compared to what you can do to a 401k, but it's a very valuable place that you can put money if you're covered by a high deductible health plan. The second thing I would look at is a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is a wonderful place to invest money that grows tax-free and comes out tax-free in retirement. The beautiful thing is even if one spouse isn't working, both spouses can contribute to a Roth IRA if you're married. So I'll often speak with couples and I'll make a Roth IRA recommendation for both of them. And they'll say, oh, well, so-and-so spouse can because they're working, but I stay at home or I don't have an income, so I'm not eligible. Well, you are. As long as one spouse earns enough income to make you eligible for both, then you can both make a Roth IRA contribution. The limit for 2023 is $6,500 if you're under age 50, and if you're 50 or older, you can put in $7,500 to a Roth IRA. Now, you may not actually be eligible for a Roth IRA if your income is too high. If you're a single individual this year and your income is over $138,000, so your adjusted gross income is over $138,000, you start getting phased out in terms of how much you can actually contribute to your Roth IRA. Once your income's over $153,000 as a single individual, you cannot contribute directly to a Roth. If you're married filing jointly, that phase out starts at $218,000 and it's fully phased out at $228,000. So in other words, if your income's under $218,000, you can make a full Roth contribution. If it's over $228,000, you cannot do any direct Roth contribution. And if it's in between those two numbers, you can do a partial contribution. It starts to get phased out as you go. So if your income is too high and you're saying, well, James, I just can't make a Roth contribution, you still may be able to via a backdoor Roth contribution. Now, there's lots of rules on this, and there's other videos I've done that explain the logistics of how you do that, but talk to your financial advisor, talk to your CPA before actually doing it, because there are a lot of things or a lot of ways that you could run into issues in doing this. However, if you have the proper setup, if you know what you need to do, what tax forms need to be filed, a backdoor Roth conversion is a wonderful way to still get money into a tax-free account, even if you make too much money to contribute directly to a Roth IRA. Another place where you can look to contribute money after you've maxed out your 401k is an after-tax 401k contribution if your plan allows it. So you might be thinking, James, what are you talking about? We're asking, where do we put our money after we've maxed our 401k? Well, when you max your 401k, what you're maxing out is the elective deferral. So what you as an employee can put in up to that $22,500 cap or $30,000 cap if you're 50 or older. However, some plans in addition to this also offer an after-tax option. The way an after-tax option works is any money you can contribute to it, you don't get a tax deduction for. So it's kind of like a Roth. You put money in, but you get no tax deduction. When you pull that money out in retirement, or when you roll it over in retirement, what you've put in, it goes to a Roth. The growth, however, that's all taxable. So any growth on those dollars that you contribute, those would roll over to a traditional IRA where they'd ultimately be taxable when you take them out in retirement. So the growth on any money that you put into your after-tax 401k, it's tax deferred. You're not paying taxes on interest or dividends or capital gains as it's growing, but it's not tax-free. You do pay taxes when you pull it out. However, if you can immediately convert any after-tax contributions you make into your Roth 401k, that's a wonderful thing to do. And if you've ever heard people talk about a mega backdoor Roth conversion, that's exactly what they're talking about. You make an after-tax 401k contribution, which is not tax deductible, so you don't get any tax break for it, and then you immediately convert that to your Roth 401k. The conversion itself is not taxable, assuming there's been no growth, because you're converting after-tax money into an after-tax Roth. The difference is now any growth is completely tax-free. So now when you pull that money out in retirement, the whole thing is tax-free as opposed to just what you put in, and then all the growth is taxable if you weren't to do the conversion. So lots of details there. Again, speak with your financial advisor, speak with your accountant to make sure you're doing it correctly, because there can be tax implications if you do it wrong, but that can be a wonderful place to keep saving money that grows tax-free if you've already maxed out your 401k. The next place you can put money after you've maxed out a 401k is just a regular brokerage account. Now, to me, a brokerage account, this is one of the most underrated vehicles that you have for saving. If you have an IRA or a Roth IRA or 401k, it's earmarked for retirement. If you have a 529 plan, well, it's earmarked for college. If you have a brokerage account, you lose the tax benefits, but you gain a tremendous amount of flexibility. If that money's growing and you decide to use it because you need to purchase a car, or you want to purchase a vacation home, or you just have a shortfall and you want to use that money, it's fully flexible, it's fully available. You're paying taxes on any of the growth in that account, but that money is fully yours to use. So if you have a short-term need, and you don't want to touch your 401k or your IRAs because you're not 59 and a half yet, or you don't want to incur taxable income, a brokerage account's a wonderful thing to have. It gives you flexibility and access for today, and if you don't use those funds today and do use them for retirement, then wonderful. It can be a wonderful complement to your IRAs and Roth IRAs and other account types to build out a well-rounded financial plan. So with a brokerage account, you lose the tax benefits, but you gain flexibility, and it can be a great complement to what you're doing with your other retirement accounts. Another option for what you can do after you've already maxed out your 401k is pay down debt. Now, depending on what kind of debt you have, if any, this is maybe option number one. If you have credit card debt, for example, and you're paying 18% interest on that, well, don't even think of investing until you've paid that off. Why would we invest to hopefully get maybe 10% over time, 8% over time, when you could get a guaranteed 18% by paying down debt? If you have high interest rate debt, that should be your immediate priority. Now, if you have low interest debt, say a home mortgage or say a car loan or whatever it is, you're not necessarily going to be better off by paying that off than you would be with investing. However, it can create huge emotional benefits. If you're going into retirement and you have a car loan and you have a home loan and if you have other debt, it can just seem like a huge burden of, gosh, we've got to support our needs, plus we have to pay the bank for our home and our car and these other things. Well, by paying that off, even if the financial return isn't as good as investing in the stock market long term, the emotional return, the quality of life it creates, can be much better by focusing on that instead of saving more money to the stock market. Another wonderful place to invest is an employee stock purchase plan. Now, I'm mentioning this towards the bottom of the list because not everyone has access to it, but if you do have access to it, this should maybe be at the top of the list of where you're looking to save your money even before potentially fully maxing out a 401k. If you participate in your company's employee stock purchase plan, then you typically get a 5 to 15% discount on your company's stock price when you're looking at the difference between where the stock price was at the beginning of what's typically a 6-month period and at the end of that 6-month period. So you contribute your money to an account, and at the end of 6 months, your company says, okay, here's what James has contributed to this account. Let's look at where company stock price was today versus 6 months ago, and whatever's lower between those two, let's take an additional 5 to 15% off of that stock price, and James's money that he put away is used to purchase stock at that price, at that lower price, and then it's immediately worth whatever the stock is worth today. So if you immediately sell that, you're getting a pretty significant guaranteed return on your investment. For example, if the company stock price is, let's say, $100 per share at the beginning of the period and still $100 per share at the end of the period, just to use a nice, easy example, and I get to purchase company stock at 15% off, all the money I set aside, I get to go buy company shares at $85 a share. Well, they're immediately worth $100 a share because that's the market value today. What does that mean for me? Well, it means I got a guaranteed 17.6% return on my investment for just that 6-month time period. So where does that 17.6% come in? Well, I bought shares at $85 a share, and they were immediately worth $100. So I had $15 of growth divided by $85 per share that I paid to purchase the stock. 15 divided by 85 is 17.6. Now that's worst case scenario. If instead, stock price started at $100 per share and ended at $120 per share, now I'm buying stock at $85 and it's immediately worth $120. So that difference is even greater. So if I'm committed to selling as soon as that stock vests, it's not the most tax efficient way of dealing with it, but it locks in a guaranteed return on investment, and that's a wonderful way to save, whether it's for long-term goals or for short-term goals. The next thing I can look to do with my money after maxing my 401k is saving to cash. If you have a goal coming up or if you're approaching retirement, it's never bad to have a stockpile of extra cash. This can be used if you want to purchase another vehicle, if you want to purchase another home, if you're saving for retirement and just want extra liquidity or extra funds to live on to buffer your retirement portfolio. Having that cash may be a great thing to do as you're preparing for a major transition. So you're not getting growth on it, you're not getting tax benefits for it, but cash and liquidity can play a major role in a plan depending on where you are in your financial journey. And then the last thing you can do with that money is spend it. And again, depending on where you are in relation to your financial goals, this may be the first thing that you want to do. But we always have to remember the goal of money isn't just to save and save and save and invest forever. It's to say, how can we use our money to make sure we're aligned with the goals that we have, both long-term goals like retirement and current goals, like current enjoyment and current time with family and current time with friends and current enjoyment of the activities we enjoy doing. So don't look at money from the standpoint of all the goals of this, or the only goal of this is to save it and put it away for the future. Putting it away for the future should absolutely be a component of what we're doing to make sure we're prepared for the future. But we also want to make sure we're using it wisely today. So make sure you have an understanding of what is valuable about money to you. What are your goals with your money? And then how do you most appropriately allocate your extra income to make sure you're on track for all of those things? So again, going back to the very beginning, the first thing you need to do is understand, even in the first place, how much should I be saving to retirement? If you want to know more about that, about how can you easily understand how much you should save for retirement, be sure to check out this video above where I walk you through just that. Once again, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial, and if you're interested in seeing how we help our clients at Root Financial get the most out of life with their money, be sure to visit us at www.rootfinancialpartners.com.